Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Capture Points talk show, the podcast of GosuGamers.net about all things Overwatch. Once again, I'm your host, Rodoslav Nitro Kolev, recording on the beautiful evening of November 6th. This is our third episode, and joining me are my GosuGamers, my dear colleagues from GosuGamers.net, Manmode and Hexagrams. We're missing Tom, unfortunately, because he apparently has chosen real life before doing a podcast about gaming, so
What a
we're not
fool.
friends anymore. And he's not working for us anymore. Obviously, I've sent him, assassins to his house to check just what the hell is happening. But I'm excited, guys, for another episode. How are you doing today, though?
I think you said November, which would be great, but unfortunately it's
Is
December
it?
as
Is
time
it
as
December?
time rambles forward. I'm
Oh,
doing
God.
great, man. It's a beautiful sunny day here. Room's flooded with light. Ready to talk about Overwatch, then cast some Overwatch, then play some Overwatch, and then go to bed. That's the plan for today.
It's an
Then
amazing.
not play some Overwatch in a few days.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Don't get ahead of topics, Jacob.
Yeah, Jesus, man. Stick to
This
the
is like
plan.
the informal kind of fun part, like where you tell us like how well you're doing and how great life is. Come on.
Well, I'm doing great. I'm just salty is all.
Yeah. And the reason you're salty is the bad news we're starting with today in our news recap. The Overwatch bet is going down for maintenance starting December 10th. So that's in 4 days. And it will be gone for at least a month. So we know that for the remainder of 2015, we will not be playing any more Overwatch. There's still no ETA on the return date. It's Blizzard said that it's mid-January, perhaps later. So for a while now, we will be Overwatchless. We'll have to stick to other games. I have been rekindling my passion in Diablo. I'm not sure what you guys are playing, but I know it won't be
Fallout
Overwatch in
4.
4 days.
Hey, what are you playing there, Jacob?
Fallout 4
Fallout
always
4.
forever.
Isn't it
I
like
don't. How do you play single player games, man? I don't get it. I just play Hearthstone because it replaces my Overwatch salts. My sodium levels
Welcome
need to
back,
remain
ladies and
high, so
gentlemen,
I
to the
just play
Capture
against paladins and
Points
Hearthstone.
talk show, the podcast of GosuGamers.net
What you should do is just play
about all
Paladin
things
yourself, man.
Overwatch.
Oh no, I
Once
have
again,
self
I'm your
respect.
host,
I
Rodoslav
refuse to
Nitro
do it.
You have
Kolev, recording
self-respect,
on the
okay.
beautiful
This is where
evening
Jacob
Play
mentions that I'm
Hunter.
on
yeah,
November
Play
Golden
6th.
Hunter.
This is our
Don't
third
you
play
all have
episode,
Hunter
and
any
joining
anymore.
me
self-respect?
are
No,
my
it's
Gosu
the
Game.
Hunter got golden. Now he's retired. He's in his golden years. So now I play combo priest because no one expects 28 damage from priest.
Yeah, it's like the Spanish Inquisition, man.
That's right.
Anyways, we know that speaking of the Overwatch beta going down, do you guys think it's a good thing or bad thing that it's being taken, down in December and for more than a month, probably? I know that a lot of people have been saying in the community that yeah, they're killing all the hype for a game that's not even out yet, and this downtime of a month or so can be actually detrimental. But I myself, for example, believe that it can actually be a good thing, especially if they return a better and more polished product and possibly even a more open product to more players. Where do you stand on this?
I agree. I think it's a good thing, mostly because this allows them to make big changes that they wouldn't be able to make otherwise. It gives them a lot of freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely they're going to work on it. Also, I think just overall for the community right now, I think it's good to take this little break. I think the people who aren't in it are getting tired of people who are in it. The sodium levels are reaching critical, heart-stopping high degrees. People are going to have heart attacks. Also, even as someone in the beta and who's like been casting and everything, I think it's good because we might be reaching an oversaturation point. We've done a lot of content, and not only our tournaments, but every tournament, every day of the week you can watch Overwatch at this point. So I think it'd be good to like take a little break. It's the holidays, let the developers work on some stuff and give everyone a little time off. And then like it's kind of relaunching the hype. Like I know when like from a month from now I'm going to be really stoked to play Overwatch again. Not that I'm like not now, but I think it's good. I think it's actually after a couple days of sadness and realizing the game I love, my sodium
Welcome back, ladies and
high.
gentlemen,
I think
to
it's
the
probably a
Capture
good thing for a
Points
little bit anyway.
talk show. This will actually be our main topic of the night, our wish list on what the developers need to implement while Overwatch beta is down, because obviously something big needs to happen. You just don't take a game for maintenance and do nothing, right? It has to come with some major improvements. And I think that this, as you said, Robert, it's fantastic for the game. I mean, if they bring a more developed product, and take this
That's right.
opportunity, with the new year come new possibilities. So if they bring back a pimped up game, everybody will be so hyped. And I know that if they actually include more people in it, I think that they probably will remain close beta upon its immediate release. Yeah, they haven't spoken anything about opening the game to the public, but even if the closed beta is more, let's say, broad in terms of players that it includes, I think it will be the best move Blizzard can do for their game.
I think actually, like, everyone wants more people in. Not even the people just like not in the beta want more people in because of course they want to be in. But I end up playing with like the same group of people pretty often. Not even like making a party, but just joining on solo queue and whatnot. I end up having to play against the pros and everything, which is fun and great. But it'd be nice to get like new blood in there. I would like to get play of the game once in a while. I would like to be able to play just with a bigger group of people. I think everyone's kind of on the same page as far as like, let's get as many people in as possible, and then hopefully we get like matchmaking and stuff like that. So I think overall it's a good thing, and also like spend some time with your families. It's the holidays, just stop playing Overwatch a little bit. I guess go play Fallout 4.
So spend time with your family by playing Fallout 4. Is this your?
Yeah,
That's
it's a
how it is
virtual
at my
family.
holidays.
It's a virtual family,
It's a virtual
right? There's a
family.
dog, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get any spoilers here, but we don't really have a virtual family in Fallout 4.
I played the first 10 minutes, so yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like how nobody says like go read a book, go explore the world. It's like, yeah, spend the holidays with Fallout 4. Do the things that really matter in this life. It's holidays, man, magical times for everybody who is a gamer, I guess. But speaking, we started touching the subject of competitive Overwatch, and as you said, Robert, there's been a lot of content, and a lot of this has been coming from our own weekly tournaments. We've been doing this for 2 weekends now. This is our second edition now, running both European and NA tournaments, and we've had some pretty amazing games over the last couple of weekends. In the European Overwatch Weekly, Melty, in the first one, Melty won, going absolutely undefeated. The team is actually yet to drop a game in a tournament. They're 22-0 across their 11 games. It's absolutely sick. Now yesterday we had the second edition of the European Weekly. We had an influx of registrations up to such an extent that we decided to double up the registration slots. So we ended up with 20-something teams. And in the end, it actually wasn't just a European tournament. It became an international affair as North American teams set up. Ended up competing against the European lots, and we had a Hubris versus Not Enigma Grand Finals, which Hubris won 3-0. Now, this Hubris Enigma thing has been going on for a while, and it kind of is the first ever rivalry in Overwatch, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if you could call it a rivalry. It's a one-ended rivalry, really.
Well,
I don't know.
Was the stronger team at the point. It now seems like Hubris are turning the tables around, but it is making for this contention point right between the two teams. It kind of reminds me of the Tempo Cloud9 rivalry in Heroes. Obviously, it's still in the early days, but it's a cool storyline to follow, even in the early Overwatch days, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it does have some parallels to the Tempo and Cloud9 because Tempo was still winning like almost consistently over Cloud9, right? And then like Cloud9 would take a map or two. It seemed like the rivalry doesn't have to be even as far as wins,
Yep.
but like is this team able to compete with this team because they're at such a higher level, right? So the only team right now that can give them a game, is Not Enigma. So, and Not Enigma's taken maps off them before as well, so it's not as one-sided as we saw yesterday. And even those games were pretty close, but it's the best we have right now. I would say is the best rivalry. Although, what would be interesting though is to see if Melty wants to actually play on Saturdays or if they want to play on Sundays. I'm not sure if they're registered for today's tournament or not.
I think they're not for the NA, no.
Yeah, I think Melty's just taking some time off even before the beta takes its own time off. But Melty was absolutely dominating in our first European tournament. Like, everyone thinks Fnatic, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Everyone thinks Fnatic is like going to be one of these great teams just because it's a name they recognize. But Melty just mopped the floor with Fnatic, like not even close. So I think I saw better games like between Melty and some of the teams that no one knows about. Fnatic got smoked. in the first EU tournament. So I think Melty right now is probably the best EU team, even though we didn't get to see them yesterday. So seeing them against either Hubris or Not Enigma would be really interesting to watch as well. But right now, I think it's without question that Hubris is the best team in NA, and the only team that even has a chance to challenge them is Not Enigma.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the Saturday tournament that happened obviously yesterday, we had European teams competing against NA teams. In the end, it was an all NA grand final. What are the lessons learned from this particular tournament? Is NA, decisively stronger than Europe? Like, what are the difference you might have seen as a caster? You were commentating this game, watching these games, obviously. What are the differences between North America and Europe? Because I really wanted to talk about the games, the difference between the region in the previous episode, but we didn't really have any, floor where we can just make comparison. But now we do. So what's the deal with NA Europe? Is NA stronger than Europe? Are there any intricacies that are different for each region? Specifics.
Well, I mean, look, so we've got a pretty small sample size, right? It's any grand standing points will probably be made null at some point in the future. But right now, I think you can't say that NA is not the stronger region. They just the two teams from NA just dominated through the European bracket, beat everyone in their way. Granted, it wasn't Melty in the tournament, and then ended up meeting in the European finals as they were playing with the higher ping. So they got through to the end, and then I think they're definitely the better region at the moment, again, small sample size. And I think I touched on this a little yesterday as well, that the NA style in FPSs and class-based FPSs, and I can only speak from watching TF2 for several years, is that the NA style is always just much more aggressive. They play super aggro. They never take their foot off your neck. As soon as they have one pick, one big moment, they keep going, and it's just aggro, aggro, aggro. And a lot of European teams over the years have just struggled to keep up with the play style and kind of match that aggression, whereas European styles are generally more methodical, thought out, and more just point by point, push by push, whereas America's unbridled aggression and chaos, and it just seems hard for European teams to deal with.
Us Americans, we don't do well with the whole thinking things through thing.
Nope.
Just go balls deep, right, and just kill everybody as fast as possible. This is the same actual tendency when watching, I guess, Hearthstone, North American and European Hearthstone players. I'm not sure why I'm even bringing it up. It's just like a cool, coincidence, cool comparison you can make. Like NA is just the more aggressive region. In Europe is more defensive, composed, controlled. It's interesting to see if this tendency actually applies to other esports as well. I have to make small research.
The interesting thing is that just off anecdotal evidence, it appears that is how the regions play across every game, right? Even like Heroes of the Storm, you see Tempo, how Tempo Storm plays. Go ahead, Jacob, you can speak to this much more than I can.
Yeah, I mostly focus on Heroes of the Storm. Europe, the top European teams like Team Liquid, Dignitas, Fnatic, all of them play this really reserved kind of tactical defensive style, whereas if you see top teams from America, you've got like Tempo Storm, obviously, well, previously, Cloud9, Cognitive, I think I would put them up there, and even some of the newer teams that are starting to rise, like Blank and Blaze, they all play this really, really in-your-face style, every single one of them.
But by the way, speaking of the international competition, people have been asking us that we region lock the tournaments, and no, we're not gonna do it. We enjoy international competition too much to ban NA teams from EU tournaments and vice versa. So, I mean, I am not even involved in the tournaments, but as a viewer, I just embrace the idea of NA going against EU, because the more international competition there is, I think the better for the game.
You can't please anyone if you don't. If you region lock them, people are like, why isn't EU playing NA? Wouldn't it be cool to see that? Yeah. And then you don't region lock it, like, this is not fair. We need to block regions. Like, you can't make everyone happy. Go ahead.
No, if you look at other esports, the international competition where regions come together and compete against each other are the most entertaining by far. I mean, if you look at League, Dota, Hearthstone, I mean, in Hearthstone, NA and EU are competing against each other quite often, but the moment you put in like a Chinese player or Korean player or an Asian player, the competition in the tournament gets that much more interesting to watch, because now it's like, oh, we have never seen this before. We have like very few instances where the regions come together and compete. Now Overwatch is young, obviously, so EU and NA is still a strong rivalry that's that's still developing, which will of course I guess piece down in time. But the moment we have like like a Korean Overwatch teams or Chinese Overwatch teams, and just watch them put into a Western tournament, everybody will go wow, because this is the the competition that everybody wants to watch, right? You don't want European teams competing against European teams all the time. It gets boring.
It's also something completely unique to Overwatch in the way that they've designed the netcode in this game. Like, I can't speak enough about it. That having played FPSs, oftentimes I can't play on a server in Los Angeles without seeing noticeable differences in my gameplay constantly. Like, I shot that rocket 2 seconds ago. Why is it there now? But there is some latency when you go across a region, across the pond and servers and whatnot. But it's still absolutely playable, and I think that's a really interesting feature of Overwatch. A lot of people are not really taking into account. When TF2 wanted to do giant international tournaments, you couldn't do it. There'd be fundraisers to fly teams to Europe to play in Insomnia so that we could see finally matches between them on LAN, because the netcode just wasn't there for them to do it across the internet. The ping was too variable. Whereas, yesterday Siegel says he doesn't like to play Pharah on EU servers because the rockets are the latency's a little bit with like projectile weapons, which I completely get. But the way it's designed, we still saw him play Pharah on EU tournaments, and he was fine with it. So I think it's one of the better features in Overwatch that kind of goes overlooked. Is I can jump on a European server today, and if I didn't know which region I was on, then it would actually be pretty hard for me to tell a difference in my gameplay.
Yep. On staying on the topic of the Overwatch weeklies, Hubris won the first one, once again, playing against Enigma. They are registered for today. They will be crowning, trying to defend their throne. The competition actually goes live at 9 p.m. European time, which is also 3 p.m. Eastern time. So I think there are still slots available. So if you're a North American Overwatch team, go sign up, register, play against the best. This will be one of the last instances we'll see in competitive Overwatch for quite some time now.
If your European team sign up,
yeah, absolutely,
just come on and play on the NA servers.
Just go crush the North American dreams. Extract these NA tiers, because Europe is the best.
Come on, Melty, you can do it. It's
not
come
Saturday.
On, Saturday's your day off. It's Sunday. Come on.
Yeah, our one of our crew members' brother said that Melty have actually registered for the NA, so I am hyped. I will be watching this with my full attention.
That's great. So Melty is in NA today, yes?
Melty is in NA, yeah.
I dig it.
Would this be the first competitive match between Melty and Hubris or not Enigma?
If they play, I believe so. I don't,
yes.
Unless they've scrimmed, I think it would be the first broadcast.
Melty has never played an NA team in their career.
That is super hype.
So yeah,
this is the first.
Tomorrow actually will be there will be another chance to see international competition. I think it was just last night it was announced. The let me check the name, guys. It was the well, sorry about this. Drawing a blank, but there's an $1,000 invitational happening with the 4 best teams in the game right now. It's called the Overwatch Atlantic Invitational. There's 4 teams are invited into a double elimination bracket. Melty is playing Fnatic in the first round, and then Northern Enigma is playing Hubris, obviously. So the tournament starts with a interregional competition, but then it will just branch out to Europe playing NA in the winners and the losers bracket, and then we will have to crown the best team in the world, because I think it's pretty consistently agreed that these are the 4 top performing teams. I think you can make an argument against Fnatic in Europe, but Melty, Northern Enigma, and Hubris are by far the 3 teams that just occupy the rankings.
Yeah, that's tomorrow night, I think, and ESL is doing the production. Yes.
Yeah. ESL is doing the production. So the casting it's cast by the Alpha Cast duo. So
I just assumed Kalaris was doing it if it was at ESL.
Well,
Kalaris casts everything at ESL. No knock on Kalaris at all. Just they have him do everything. I think he lives there. Like, he just came with the building they rent, and they're like, we're doing a new game.
He was a
get up
squatter,
there.
just in the
Yeah.
corner. They're like, "Hey, we'll take this guy. We'll do a cast with him."
Yeah, so definitely tune into that tomorrow. I think it's a 1 day event, so gonna be pretty strict to watch. Tune in today for the Overwatch NA Weekly that we are running. The beautiful face and voice of Robert, aka Hexagrams, will be there, joined by ZPs. So, like, nothing can go wrong and everything will be awesome. Just go
Why
and
you
watch.
gotta jinx us?
No, this is my blessing. I don't jinx anything.
Good,
I
good.
only jinx my own content and my own plans. I give blessing to other people.
Yeah, and lucky
So
for everyone, you're not involved in our tournament today.
no, because this will just crash. Like nobody will watch anything. It will be a disaster. But yeah, other people are involved in it, more skillful and handsome and adequate than I am. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'll just be watching from the sidelines, eating pizza and drinking beer because it's Sunday. What else am I gonna do?
like I'm pretty hyped for it now, especially knowing Melty's going to be in it. But like even after like the hubris and not Enigma stuff, and like you said, hubris hasn't really uh, they've been dominating even not Enigma. But there's some other teams that I've noticed coming through the ranks in the NA scene too that I'm really looking forward to seeing how they play as well. I mean, False Reality comes to mind, of course. They ended up in the finals last week against Hubris. They ran a really interesting Genji style that was a break from the meta that dominated teams. So even the lower rounds, if you will, before we get to the finals, which we all assume is going to be two of those three teams battling it out against each other. There's even the early play in both sides of the bracket. I think we have. If we're casting a game that you don't want to watch, I think we have other casts. We have different language casts, like everything today. Get your Overwatch in while it's still good to watch because it ends shortly. So take your
Well, don't
Sunday
remind
off.
me, man.
And now that we are actually seeding the tournaments based on our rankings, so you know that the best teams will not face against each other in the first rounds. The bracket will get more stacked and more interesting as the tournament progresses. So yeah, absolutely, tune into the NA Overwatch Weekly tournament. It's once again 9 p.m. for the Europeans or 3 p.m. for the Eastern Americans. I would say Eastern Americans, is that even a thing?
Yeah, like New York, it's New York
Yeah,
Eastern time.
yeah, Eastern time. So yeah, we also had another European tournament last week, Alpha Cast number 2. Melty won it, unsurprisingly, as we mentioned. They are still to drop a game 2-0 against Fnatic in the finals. Another question is who can stop Melty in Europe? From what I've seen, the difference between them and all other European teams are, I think it's quite extensive. People are automatically looking at Fnatic, but I think Sith and G2, is one of the teams, some of the teams that can actually challenge them. Rob, from your experience,
I'm gonna throw out a name that I think they're just gonna get better because I watched them for a couple weeks now and I've seen them getting better and they actually had some decent matches against the top teams in our first tournament and that would be, I just had it, Eccentric.
Yep.
Yeah, Eccentric was playing really well. A couple of the guys on their team are just top tier heroes. They've had really interesting matches, and like I did see improvement from week 1 to week 2, and I think in our first week when they played Melty before Fnatic did, I think they gave them better games. The competition was higher and better, and I think Eccentric would be a team to look for on the way up.
All right, all right. I guess we can move on to our main point, main topic for today. We are continuing on this, the thing that we first brought on the podcast about the Overwatch beta going down and the possible improvements we want to see when it gets back. So I think there are several big topics that everybody requests. So we're gonna start with them and trickle down to the more minor, I'd say, quality of life changes that we actually want to see. And I think the first one, the first stop we'll have to make is something that's absolutely paramount to every PvP game, and that's any form of progression slash rankings system slash ranked play. Now, Overwatch obviously doesn't have this yet. Every game you walk in is independent. It's not tied to your any levels of your account, any ranking or a new ladder. It's just you go in, play the match. That's it. You get some cool stats in the end to see how well you perform, but that's it. Nothing changes. Now, What do you guys think about this? Like, is this the number one thing that needs to be introduced in Overwatch upon return, or is it anything bigger than this that needs to be prioritized?
I think that for the general audience of the game, like the main, not the top end, which is what we usually focus on, but the general people who are replaying the game, I think this is the number one feature that we need. Mostly because there's in every Blizzard game, there's an incentive to play. In Diablo 3, it's you want to get your legendary. You want to get legendaries. In World of Warcraft, there's 1,000 incentives to play. Here's the Storm, your daily quests. You know, uh, StarCraft 2, I guess, daily tournaments now, or just lettering. But there's nothing like that in Overwatch, except for just you're playing Overwatch. So I think for the general audience, this is the number one thing that we need is a
I
ranking
think
system and account progression of some kind.
Yeah, and what you mentioned too, I mean, it would be an outlier if we didn't get these things as far as Blizzard games go, right? I mean, there's times where I don't feel like playing Heroes of the Storm, but I'm like, I'll play a couple games, get my quest done. Like there is that kind of carrot on the stick that happens. And I don't know if they'll have a monetization system where you get gold that you can spend on master skins or something like that. But I think, any sort of progression throughout the game is huge. Even for someone like me who doesn't like playing single player games, I still want to level up my character. I want to get um, my Zarya to rank 10 so that she can
Yeah.
put sleeves on. Like I think
Makeup
there,
on.
there's always something interesting to do, but like giving the incentive to have people play even when maybe they're not like up to playing or they don't feel like playing, then they start playing and they're into it. And yeah, some sort of progression ranking system. And like I think the matchmaking is the biggest thing though. Like you want to be able
Okay.
to play with people at skills at your same level. And I'm not sure if the MMR is in the system not, because there's games where I play with people who I feel like they're playing on a trackpad and on a MacBook somewhere, and there's people that I'm playing with who are, Oplad, clearly like one of the best players in the entire game. So I'm not certain if it's just my MMR's wonky or if that's just something unseen. But ultimately, in games like this, you want to play with people of similar skill who are trying to win the game in the same way that you are. That's why TF2 pubs have struggled so much. That's why everyone's so excited for TF2 matchmaking, is because you can only play a game with randos so long without any incentive or any matchmaking or any kind of I'm at least playing with people at the same skill level as me. So that definitely has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, guess the 2 points are tied together, right? You cannot have an adequate ranked play without an adequate matchmaking system. Heroes of the Storm, I totally did not cover this cough. Now the game has been, Heroes has been under attack for its matchmaking, atrocity for a long time. People trying to rank up and then get, constantly pair with, lower skill players or against higher skill players or resulting in one-sided games. And I think we briefly touched on this in the previous episode, talking about the MMR. And we know that this is a thing that the Blizzard dev team is exploring. And, it started with these, rating of the matches, rating of the players, to just gather data and work on it. And I believe that this will be one of the changes that they 100% will make, when the beta returns, because they have been so openly vocal about, their desire to fix the matchmaking.
I
But
think the
mhm.
I think the biggest thing that they can do is make the MMR or whatever ranking system, make it visible. 'Cause that's the
Oh
problem
yeah,
that Heroes of the Storm suffers from right now is the matchmaking is not necessarily bad. It's decent. I mean, you do get bad matches every now and then, but that's the same for any game. But the problem is you can't see the good matches as easily as the bad ones because there's no way to look at somebody and say, okay, this is their skill level, this is mine. We shouldn't be playing together, or we should be playing together, or anything like that. There's the ranking, 50 to 1, but that doesn't really
I mean, the
focus.
two issues with matchmaking are always that everyone thinks they're better than they are. Everyone, across the board. And two, it's really hard to make a matchmaking system when you have that many players in a game. So I think a lot of what we saw maybe in the beta was like trying to figure out what matchmaking is working and isn't working. And maybe that's what they wanted to work on before allowing more people into the beta. But yeah, matchmaking's people are always going to complain about matchmaking. You do the best you can with it and hope that it works out. But I completely agree with you, Jacob. Like transparency is key of how are they doing it. I mean, people are still going to complain about it because that's what the internet's for. But I think a transparency allows people to at least defend it in an intelligent way as well, because it's really hard to defend something that you don't know anything about.
I want to continue on the topic about the ranking system. Now in games like Heroes, in games like League of Legends, you only have two options. You can solo queue, alone or with one friend, or you can team queue as five people because Heroes and LoL are 5v5 games. Should the same thing be kept and applied to Overwatch? So you can, like, if you want to get ranked, you only play with one or two friends possibly, or full six premates, or we can just say like, okay, screw it, and you can rank with as many people as you want.
I would say do whatever. Like honestly, my first thought was like, well, I don't want to play against a pre-made team, but then you think about like how accessible the comms are in this game, so that the biggest issue with team queues and solo queues in other games is that, well, if I'm playing a Heroes game against a pre-made 6, they're probably on comms, they're probably talking, and I have no way to deal with that. Pre-made 5, sorry.
Yep.
And but in Overwatch, like, you can pretty well communicate with your team, even when people aren't talking back on microphone. You do get response as far as like saying like, let's do this, let's do that, let's try to do something. And I think also the biggest point is, I ended up having to play against a pre-made 6 of a team just scrimming on a pub the other day, and we got beat. But you know what? It only took 5 minutes, and I probably learned a little bit about the map, and I got a little better at it. So it's not like you have to dedicate an hour-long game to Dota, or even 25 minutes to a Heroes of the Storm game or something. Like if you're getting stomped, it's 5 minutes and you can move on. You can leave game and requeue. So I don't see a big issue with going against pre-mades or anything like that. And also, I think the only way to get better is to play against people better than you. So if you happen to be solo queuing and you end up playing against a pre-made team trying out a new roster like False Reality, which happened to me the other day, and you get stomped on Hollywood, then you learn a little bit about like how they're playing Hollywood, and like, wow, that's a good place to hold right there. That was really interesting. In 5 minutes, I learned something new about the game. So I don't think with the length of game, especially, I don't think it's a huge issue to get stomped game. Just move on. It's 5 minutes.
Jacob, do you echo the same sentiment?
Yes. Also, I want to add that
Dynamite drop in, Jacob. Those broadcasting school is really paying off.
Yes.
I also want to add that the comm system in the game really is amazing. I was using it a lot yesterday, and I actually made a couple new friends through VoiceCon. So
wow, that never happens to me.
I know, but like, it's rare.
It's actually really true too, because when I first started playing, before we were even doing tournaments or we were going to cast or anything, like I would be in a game and like the people who would talk, and then we'd respawn back. But then like when that game was over, they're like, well, this guy's talking and he's trying to play, let's add him to the party. And then you have friends, and now there's people in my friends list who are on competitive teams that I had no idea were going to be on competitive teams. But it was like, this guy's playing in the same way we are, let's add him to the party. And now you make new friends that way, because the voiceover is just like, the comm system is so good and so well designed. There's like no delay in it. It's just it's exactly what class-based games like this need. And I haven't really run into
Storm needs.
Yeah, well, you might get it because it's in the Blizzard product,
Yeah, but basically, I'm so happy about the fact that Overwatch, it's Blizzard are trying something that they've never done before. Obviously, an FPS game, they've never tried. They've always been an RPG/RTS game, right? With the MMO exception, but I'm so happy to see that a game that's so new to them is so polished in closed beta. Because as you said, like everything is working almost perfectly. The MMR is fine, to a large extent. The ping to when you cross regions is almost non-existent or very minimal. The voice chat is good. The stuff that's in the game works perfectly, and they only need to add from there. Like there's no one thing that needs to. It's so terribly broken that it's holding the game back.
No, I mean, it does have the polish of a Blizzard game, right? The
Yep.
core of the game is finished.
Yeah.
the core of the game is essentially a finished product, right?
Mhm.
The dressing and how it's wrapped need a little bit of work, and some of the information, and you know that they're actively working on it. Blizzard's been great as far as the communication goes, of like,
Oh yeah.
well, we tried this and it didn't work. We're trying this, it didn't work. We're doing all this stuff you guys are looking at. So just let you know, and that's all really gamers want, is just oftentimes the blue response is just, we're working on it, and people are like, thanks. That's all I wanted to know, is that you're working on it, that you're listening. But at its very core, there's a lot of things I would change about the game, the UI and stuff like that. There's many different things, but at its core, gameplay mechanics and how it looks, how it feels, how it sounds, it's a polished and finished game, and you would expect nothing less from Blizzard. They don't really, even as a beta, there's not like game breaking bugs, and when the bugs come out, they fix them in a week. You know, you can't blink into Jeeps anymore, unfortunately. But I think, even with this month-long break, they don't need to make it a vast overhaul. They think they do because they're perfectionists, but I think at its core, it's a polished game.
I feel like the month-long break is mostly for hardware stuff to get more people in, because
Possibly, yeah.
those stress test weekends were seriously stressful. I mean, that lag was real, dude.
Oh yeah. I want to close the topic about rank play with one final question. How do you envision the rank system working? Because we've seen different types of ranking in Blizzard games. We have the divisions, leagued uh, structure of StarCraft 2, I guess, and then you have the more uniform ladder with individual ranks that is Heroes of the Storm and Hearthstone. Where do you see Overwatch going? Like, what's the best direction for the game?
Well, they can't use the StarCraft formula because that's best for 1v1.
But if you're solo queuing, it is kind of one. I think it'll be
No, it's because League has the same system. It has a layered ladder. It's not like from rank 25 to 1 or from 50 to 1. You just climb through divisions. It's still a team game, and it still applies to solo queue.
Yeah, so maybe some kind of hybrid of a StarCraft and Heroes of the Storm, where say you're in bronze, and then to get out of bronze, you have to move through a certain amount of ranks, kind of a star system, maybe include like the Hearthstone bit of stars too, where it's harder to rank up at higher levels, and that you're maybe do seasons as well. I honestly don't know how they should do it, but I have faith that they'll do it properly. I mean, I know I'm sounding like a fanboy now, but
It's okay.
I've never had an issue with like their matchmaking system. When I was silver in StarCraft 2, I was like, this is absolutely where I belong. That's completely where I belong. I get it. And when I reached Legend in Hearthstone, I was like, I totally deserve this. Self plug.
Jacob,
What?
you wanted to say something? Oh,
you should say something. It's a podcast. Come on.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the StarCraft 2 system for a game like this.
all right.
Because, it just feels weird to have, an RTS ladder ranking system for a shooter game.
So you would just go for what Heroes has, for example?
Not exactly what Heroes has, but probably something close. I definitely with more transparency, though. I think it should be it should be MMR based. But there should be separate MMRs for if you're with you should be able to make a league, you're a team of people who you don't have to necessarily play with, but if you are playing with different amount of those people, it affects your MMR differently than if you're playing by yourself.
Conversely, it should be also who you play against as well. You should what I really like about the hero system is you get a certain amount of points based on how the matchup was. So if you win a matchup that you should have won, let's just say you get 90 points, and if you win a matchup you shouldn't have won, you get 110 points. So if I have to play against not Enigma while they're scrimming, and we happen to pull off a victory by going 5 Winstons and
instantly number 1 in the world.
Yeah. Then I should get 1,000 points. But if I just beat someone who just installed the game and is playing on a trackpad, then I should get 5 points. Something weighted with MMR in it, I think, is important.
All right. Wrapping up this topic and moving to more, I would say, competitive discussion, because this is where we're coming from, right? We are esports journalists, so we like to talk competitive anything. And actually, we had a poll on the site in the previous episode, and it. The poll has been showing that you guys are loving the competitive discussion, so we're gonna spend a bit more time talking about those in future podcasts. Of course, we will have some casual topics and just general gameplay stuff, but we are going to dedicate big chunks of the podcast to competitive side. But I want to talk about the spectator mode now. This has been a largely discussed topic. We actually wrote a group editorial on GosuGamers.net, so go check it out. But I want to start there. We've had, I think, like the entire Overwatch crew plus ZPs, our caster for the Overwatch weeklies. We all chipped in and said, okay, what do we want to see the spectator mode improve, right? Like what needs to be done to have a more enjoyable, um, you know, viewing of tournaments. So let's go there. Like first of all, is this a big thing that needs to come with the January relaunch? Is it something that should be prioritized or that can be left for later dates?
This cannot come soon enough.
So you're basically with me on this. Like, please get it.
Yes.
Because I would actually pick it. Like, if I was to make a list of my wishes for the Overwatch return, this would be on the topmost. Like even before ranked play, because thus far I have enough incentive to play Overwatch, and the incentive is I like to play it and I want to play it. So for the time being, like let's say for the next 2 months or 3 months, I wouldn't need a ranked system to enjoy the game, which is something I desperately need in Hearthstone to keep playing. But if the competitive scene is to grow, and like Overwatch is obviously designed to be an esport in the future, one of the big ones, hopefully. The spectator mode is something I would definitely want to see prioritized, just like number one on my list.
I mean, I think a lot of the suggestions as well go even towards just your basic UI mode, not even spectator mode. Like there's some information that a lot of people want: kill feeds, hero switches, like those those should be kind of top of the list. And again, it's a balancing act of how much information you give the players, because if you give them too much information, then it's
confusing.
It's yeah. Well, it's not even confusing, but it's like a competitive disadvantage. Like you should have to track that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of odd. Like I was a little confused that Overwatch shows you the enemy's health you're playing against. That's news to me. That's new in FPSs in the games I played. In TF2, you don't know how much health the person that you're shooting has. You know how much damage you've done. You can do a little number pops over their head that this guy just took 100 damage, and you know that his health pool is 200. So you have to do at least 100 more, maybe less, maybe one more, but you have to calculate that damage. So the way different games approach it is interesting as far as what information we're going to give the player and what information we expect that player to track by themselves. So right now, they give you the damage info, but they expect you to track who's up and who's down in your team a lot, more manually, that hitting tab very often, and you have to check your composition more often. So a lot of people want kill feeds, of course, and they want to know what hero switches when, which is in the game actually already, like when a teammate switches to someone else, but it's not the most visible. So there's a lot of things that I think go across both spectator mode and regular UI mode that would be wonderful to see in each. And really, the only thing I want for Christmas is for the spectator camera to stop moving out of my hands as soon as anyone else clicks a button. Like, it's game-breaking hard. And I was in the chat yesterday, and someone said, well, like, as long as you don't click after he clicks, then you'll be fine. But sometimes it gives me a camera that's like a Symmetra building a turret somewhere, and I'm like, I can't see. I guess I'll cast this. Symmetra's building a turret in the back.
There's another one.
Huge play. So, like, you have to move around. And the fact that when I click, it moves ZP's camera and vice versa, that's broken as hell, and they need to fix that immediately. That's number one priority.
One of the cool suggestions that somebody made in the group editorial was that we get fixed camera angles, which you can switch from, like, let's say the F keys, like you have it in StarCraft 2. So you have predefined angles, let's say over a capture point from different angles, then from the the path leading from A to B or whatever. You can see the chokes, for example, like the choke from the attacker side, the choke from the defender side, etc. Do you think this is a cool thing to have in the spectator mode, Jacob?
Yeah. Yes.
I want Jacob to answer because I'm sick of you, Robert. Get out.
Well, join the club.
That's definitely something because I personally haven't done any spectating because I'm a horrible caster and I don't have the gear for clean feeding for this game. But I have to listen to Robert complain about it pretty much every day, and the runoff that I get from him is basically, my God, this is camera awful to control. So, yes, please fix it so he'll leave me alone forever.
Well, I think what you see too with the fixed camera angles is I've watched different tournaments and I've watched our tournaments, of course, but everyone kind of likes to see things from very similar spots anyway. Like it's
Yep.
kind of already defined. Like if you're watching the push on last on King's Row, you're like in the top right corner watching the choke come through. Like there's already places that are really good at catching the action, and they don't even like. If you could customize them, that'd be great. You know, set your cameras with F1, Shift F1. Blizzard has that in other games. That'd be wonderful. If they just want to put it out like as part of the map system, where these are our cameras of the map, these are what you get to do, so it's unified, would be really interesting as well. Because I mean, I was a big champion of customization for the UI, but I don't think we're ever going to get that, to be honest.
No, I think not. In the same group editorial, we had a poll asking people to vote for which function they want to see the most. And one of the suggestion that got the most popular was mini plays of the game, which is something ZP suggested. So you can basically capture plays within the game, and before it's finished, you can broadcast it to the public. Actually, it's something really cool to have, to feel downtime. Because, for example, teams are just pushing the payload. Where you're not gonna watch this, right? And this is something that's been done in multiple esports before. It's something that obviously exists in real sports. In the boring times, like in the when there's nothing really interesting happening, you just bring those mini plays of the game. Do you guys think that this is something cool to have? Or I guess it's cool, but do you think it's something that Blizzard will have to prioritize? Try to make to make it happen in the spectator mode. Like how actually convenient will this be for spectators?
Everyone loves highlights and replays. When with that one caster, his name escapes me right now, was doing instant replays on Heroes of the Stormcast, the community went insane for it,
Yeah.
and it was wonderful. So I think many plays of the game that a caster could highlight and shift over time, and that we could watch instead of maybe a play that was less impactful or less interesting. Which, oddly enough, some of the plays of the game that Blizzard just picks out are perfect, and that was absolutely what won the game for a team. And some of them are
Symmetrical building turrets,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
The good one from yesterday, Rob, Zenyatta just peacefully floating towards the the capture point.
It was calming. But it goes into the fact that we need an overall like replay and demo system to begin with. So I think that they come hand in hand.
I think it will be amazing to see in Overwatch just because of how the game is played out. Because you get a lot of small skirmishes that you don't necessarily see, when you just look at a map, right, or look at the battlefield from a certain angle. You probably are missing how Tracer go back, snipe two people, and then teleport it back, right? You might have missed this while you're watching, Reinhardt pushing the payload. So I think like if you can extract these moments, put them on screen, and just fill up the the production with even more hype moments, I think this will prolong the game's life immensely.
Yeah, and beyond that too, like just a replay of a whole game. You load up your gameplay, and now you can watch everyone's angle. Like that's in other Blizzard games. That's been in StarCraft. It's in Heroes of the Storm. Like I said, TF2 has it. This is a match I played. It's recorded, and it's a small file because it's just using game info. You load it up, and that helps content creators. That helps teams over. Demo reviews are a big thing. Looking over scrims, so I think it's part and parcel of the same kind of technology we need. But I would love to have all my games recorded and replayed, so I can go through them and see the mistakes I'm making, or how like if I'm getting dominated by a tracer, pretty often occurrence, I got to figure out what is she doing that I need to figure out how to counter. So the replay system is that's at the top of my wish list.
All right.
I think the best way to implement this would be after either team attack or defense is either wiped or significantly like five people down. I think that'd be the best time for a little like mini. Oh, let's see what happened there to come up and do an instant replay.
Absolutely. I mean, again, as we mentioned, this has been done all over esports, regular sports. This is the perfect way to fill up time in these downtime moments. Another thing that people wanted to see a lot is better health bars, because obviously in game you see how much health everybody has. In spectator mode, not so much. So you would just watch a game and suddenly a person is dead and you don't really know what happened. Like was he one shotted? Was he low to begin with? Um, any thoughts on this?
I've had no issues with the health bars. They seem obvious to me, but I don't know. I when I see a giant health bar for Mazaria and half of it is blue, I understand that she's
It's
got
shields. Yep.
this. Yeah, but I think a lot of that has to do. Maybe some of those complaints come from people who are in the only watch kind of category. And not to disparage them. Thank you for watching, but you want when you play a little bit, then you have a base understanding of what that health is and what it actually represents because you've played the character. But that didn't even occur to me that the health bars were an issue. They seem perfectly readable to me, but that's after
Yeah.
playing a bunch and spectating a bunch and casting a bunch. So I think a lot of that is just you got to play for a little bit and then you understand it.
Slayan5 is saying in Twitch chat, by the way, thank you for watching and commenting, that most of the plays of the game that the game is picking up is terrible. And I absolutely agree with this because it's always like you never highlight, let's say, a support. It's very rarely to see this. And it's sometimes it's actually the support making the plays. It's so subtle that you don't really see it. And you will always see these, Tracer triple kills or Reinhardt big kills or something like this. And that's not always what's happening or what's winning the game. So going back to the capturing the mini plays of the game, I think it's absolutely necessary because this gives exposure for the lesser highlighted roles, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's hit or miss. I feel like it's about 50-50 that
Yeah.
we'll cast a match and what we think was the play of the game or like a big turning point in the game will sometimes be showing up at the end, but maybe a Mercy gets off of 5 res and then the play of the game is I don't know, a Widowmaker doing 6 shots on someone to finally kill him. There's so it's a high variance is the problem that no one really understands what is going to be the player of the game or not. And of course, Reaper with his Q of the game more often than not will win, or a Reinhardt ult. But yeah, I mean, that is kind of the system was designed. That play of the game system was designed for people just playing the game, right? It's not really for our spectator mode. Like that's our job as casters and spectators is be like, well, that was interesting, but the actual play of the game was, and what actually happened here was like, if they make it too good, I'm absolutely obsolete. So I don't really mind it.
Two things that were on my wish list personally for spectator mode, and I swear we're just closing up this topic because I think it's becoming a main topic of its own, and it shouldn't really be the case. I know I want a map mode like mini map or a big map on tab modes, plus some way to track hero changes because hero changes is a big thing in Overwatch. It's what drives the entire game, and we don't really have a convenient way to track it in spectator mode or otherwise. Again, I'm gonna start with Jacob because I'm just in love with how silent he is. So sorry, you get to talk about Overwatch a lot.
I'll be talking all day.
You'll be talking. So I'm just saving your voice. This is what I'm doing. I'm not, pushing you down in the corner. But these are the things I absolutely love to see, and especially as a viewer, I would just like to, let's say, the match starts and the caster brings up the map. Say, okay, this is the map, and the guys are attacking, and there are several ways that they can do. Come from here, come from there, and this is where the defense will set up the defenses, and Reinhardt will stay here, May will camp, this corner, Symmetra will have turrets, this and there. So I think that this will enhance the casting and tournament production greatly. What do you think?
About hero changes?
Yeah, hero changes and the map modes, map features or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that isn't already in the game, to be honest, because
the map or the hero changes, because
both, really, because like Heroes of the Storm has the map stuff already. It's super basic, but it's already on the loading screen, for every single map. So I mean, that's not really too hard to do slight alterations to and make it work for Overwatch. And hero switching, that's like the entire point of the game. That's like what they were putting out as the big thing. You change your hero and whatever to adjust to whatever strategy is being thrown at you. So the fact that there's not already a just anything, like in a corner somewhere in the spectator UI to track which heroes are being changed. I don't know why they wouldn't put that in.
Oh, there's a couple ways to do it. The minimap thing I completely disagree with. I don't think the game needs a minimap. I don't think FPSs should have a minimap. They give you the heads-up display of where heroes have died, and I think you start putting too much information on screen like that, then you're going to reduce the need for comms, and I think the game is much better for comms. So when you know where everyone is, then you can play it much more like a single player game. And I don't think that's necessary. Like seeing where someone is dead, seeing where turrets are is already up on the heads up. Sure, it could be optimized a little more. I don't think a mini map's a huge priority. As far as tracking hero changes, I think at the bottom of the screen right now is just every hero and
Yep.
whatnot. So maybe when someone switches hero, who they were kind of moves up and fades
Yep.
away. That would be fine too. But also like tracking hero changes that's the caster skill ceiling, right? You got to be able to notice what's happening.
But sure, like you cannot expect the caster to narrate it all the time, right? Because changes happen all the time. They can highlight, well, he's switching from Reinhardt to Diva because X happened, right? But
yeah,
you
but
cannot do
honestly,
it for 12 people.
Changes don't happen that often though. I mean, again,
Sure.
it's a small base so far. I can only speak from my own experience of like sometimes a change will happen that you kind of expected to happen and you've already prepped your audience for it. That this double Lucio is only going to be on first comp, then they're going to switch to Mercy. That happened yesterday. And then like when an important change happens or a big change happens, it actually gives you a break to see it. I think it could be on it. Again, I don't see it as a huge priority. I think again for the general UI, it's more important to see when your team changes and what's happening, and that's mostly it's already in the game that this person has changed from this to this, but the availability of the information is small in the bottom left hand corner and a small audio cue, and some of the small audio cues can just go completely unheard and unnoticed. So I think that needs to change a little bit. But as far as the spectating, small changes, I think are. I don't think the game needs an overhaul like a lot of people think it does.
No, it's really minor things.
One last feature I want to talk about before we wrap up the show is player profiles, because this is something I also would absolutely love to see. And we've been mentioning this in previous features, because right now there's no way to track your history in Overwatch, right? You basically know what you're playing, on the back of your head. Like, okay, I play tanks a lot, and I play Reinhardt a lot, but there's no way to track, like, okay, how much damage I've done with this hero, how much damage I've blocked as a tank, or what's my win rate. Even you cannot even access this. So do you see this as another priority that has to come with the January relaunch, or again, this is something that they can delay for the official launch, later in 2016?
Yes.
You cannot answer yes to both. I asked two questions that have completely different answers. Like,
Yeah,
you get on to me earlier for
I know
saying,
that was the joke.
Wow,
bro.
nobody got it. Okay, continue.
Nobody cares about you, bro.
Yeah, stop making fun of people. Come on, Jesus.
I'm making fun of anyone. Yeah, I love the Heroes of Storm tracking. You've played this hero this many games. It gets, sad sometimes. You see how many games you've played, but like the tracking of what you're the basic tracking of, and it goes along with like the achievements and just kind of the overall tracking. Having a profile would be phenomenal that you get to see. Oh, well, maybe the reason I'm dying to Genji all the time is because I've played one game as Genji and I don't know how he works. So stuff like that I think is helpful.
Well, are you off the hate Genji train?
Oh no!
Oh, okay.
No!
I was just worried for a
The
second.
hate Genji train is still full force ahead.
I know that the player profile is something that I myself consider an incentive by itself, right? Because sure, it's not ranking, sure, it's not progression of any kind, but it kind of is, right, indirectly. Because yeah, I just want to see, I want to hit 100 games with Zaranam, so I'm gonna do it.
Personal progression.
Yeah, it's personal progression. Like, it's not within the game, but it's something like that you only see for yourself. And this can actually keep myself going in a game for a long time. I can even go without a ranking system if I have a player profile which I can track. My progress. I can see my personal best. I try to break this personal best, and this can keep me going in a game for a long while. Jacob?
I would like to see them extend on the card system a lot.
Okay.
It's neat, like just the way it is. Just be like, oh hey, he did like 16,000 block or whatever on Reinhardt. That's really good. Upvote him. But I would like it where you could collect those cards after a game and have like a little display on your profile.
Okay.
Come up.
Oh, this
like,
is really cool.
Like, oh, boom! I had 10 Earth Shatter kills with Reinhardt this game, and 10 people voted that up. Bam, there it is. My crowning jewel. Something you could really decorate your profile with.
I didn't even think about this. I think this would
or
be
maybe, like it could show on a load
kick-ass.
screen too, because
Jesus, yeah.
It could be like a badge of honor you wear.
Yeah.
You bring it to a game. So if you see somebody load into a game and they've got all these Reinhardt badges and they pop up and they're playing Reinhardt. You're like, oh gosh, guys,
This guy is a god on Reinhardt. Now,
this
now I have
guy's gonna
to
go ham.
finish this. Yeah.
It's kind of similar to like master skins, right? It's like,
Yeah.
well, at least they played this many games and they shouldn't be awful at it. You could be wrong, but like we've seen this system in other Blizzard games. You get a legend card back. It's like, well, this is going to be an interesting game in Hearthstone.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I think we can bring the show to a wrap, guys. I think we've been.
We have a chat question though. Chat
We
question.
have a chat question. What's the chat?
Yeah, it's in the Skype. I'll read it for you if you want.
Okay, read it for me. It's from Antioch, right?
Yeah.
So
Hey
it's-
guys, awesome work you're doing here. Since I've gotten in Overwatch in the first wave, I've been practicing with groups most like 8 hours a day. How far ahead do you think these top teams are ahead over everyone? So how much better is Not Enigma, Hubris, Melty, Fnatic than everyone else?
Oh, I think it's way ahead. But you have to know that it's not just about practice. Like Antioch, but if you're practicing 8 hours a day, you're gonna be an excellent Overwatch player, unless you're, just not good enough at video games, right? Everybody who plays something 8 hours a day will get decently good at it. So, but these teams actually come from FPS, competitive FPS genres in their past. Like they've been playing it much more than just 8 hours a day. So they already have a head start in their Overwatch development as players because they've been playing TF or Quake or enemy territory or whatever. Like they have the background. This is what sets them apart. Obviously, teams will catch up to them. Not always will be they will be on top, right? Other Overwatch teams, pure Overwatch teams, will appear and they will kick ass. But we'll just need time to get there.
Jacob?
Yeah, the reason that these teams are the top teams is because they've got thousands and thousands of hours in other FPS games, and they were competitive players in those FPS games, and the skills translate really well. And obviously, there are some small discrepancies between the games, but if you know how to point and shoot a gun in one game, and it's a hit scan weapon, you know how to play every single hit scan weapon in the entire game for like every game ever that's an FPS.
Yeah, I mentioned this a bit yesterday too, that the mechanics will take you so far, and ZP and I had a conversation about that. But in my opinion, if you want to get better at the game and you think you're mechanically sound, then you got to work on your comms, your game sense, and your calls. So if you want to get better at a game like this, or any game with team involved, then just work on your social skills, really. Like being able to communicate well and communicate positively with your teammates is what I think probably sets these teams above all else, because I know that all Hubris and Not Enigma have been playing together for years already. So that's why they're already so good. It's not necessarily that their muscle memory's better. It's already top notch. But what sets them above the other teams right now and the other players is the fact how they communicate and that they're all playing the same game at once. They're not playing 5 or 6 different games. They're playing one game together as a team. And so if you want to get better at the game and you think you're mechanically there, then you just need to get better at making calls and working with your team. And you can even do it in solo queue. I mean, as long as you're not toxic about it, I give my team instructions all the time and make suggestions, and then maybe we can turn a game around. You can do it in solo queue because the voice comms are there. So you want to get better at a game like this, work on your social skills.
Right. Well, thank you guys for joining us for the 3rd episode of Capture Points. We will be back next weekend for another episode. We are not stopping just because Overwatch is stopping, so we will have podcast content for you. Thank you for everybody who participated in the chat and had an awesome discussion. Thank you, Antiox, for the question. Before we wrap this up, make sure to go on Twitter and follow us because we're awesome and we love you. You can follow myself at GGNitro. You can follow Rob at Hexagrams, and you can follow Jacob at menmode_hots because he's a hot guy. Follow our work on GosuGamers.net/Overwatch and follow at GosuOverwatch on Twitter as well. Make sure to tune in to our NA weekly tournament once again at 9 p.m. European time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. I think it's Melty against the Americans possibly happening. So yeah, hype. So yeah, this was the podcast. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, enjoy life, enjoy gaming. We'll see you on Saturday or Sunday, depending on when we have time. Thank you guys, and see ya.